From Studio 226 in Orlando, this is Aging Smarter. I'm your host, retired former Circuit Judge Jose R. Rodriguez. This podcast is dedicated to inform, educate, entertain, and amaze you about your life's journey, regardless of your age. Today, on Aging Smarter, we're focusing on an issue that touches many families across Florida. Under Chapter 393, individuals that have been diagnosed with autism qualify for guardian advocacy. And the systems designed to support children and caregivers, not just today, but into adulthood and beyond, is what we're going to be talking about. Florida has recently passed legislation aimed at improving safety, healthcare access, and educational opportunities for families affected by autism. These laws reflect a growing understanding that autism policy isn't just about childhood services. It's about long-term stability, dignity, and the quality of life. Joining me is Kevin Indelicato. Kevin, thank you for being here. And before we get started, tell our listeners a bit about yourself and what drew you to this topic.
Thank you, Judge, for having me today. I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, and I'm currently a second year at Barry Law University. I became interested in disability policy and family-centered legislation because I've seen how deeply public systems affect real people, especially families navigating healthcare, education, and safety for children with special needs.
Well, that's exactly the lens we use on Aging Smarter, how laws affect everyday life and long-term planning. Let's begin with the most recent and most widely discussed initiative. This segment is the spectrum on the alert system. Florida recently enacted a House Bill 711, which creates what's known as the spectrum alert. For listeners who haven't heard of it yet, what is a spectrum alert, Kevin?
So the Spectrum Alert is a statewide emergency notification system designed specifically for missing children with autism. With autism spectrum disorder, or as my blog puts it, ASD. It functions similarly to the Amber Alert, but it recognizes that children with autism face unique risks when they wander or become separated from caregivers.
Let's stop right there. You mentioned your blog. Tell us about your blog, because we want people to go to it and go to it in depth. You take the time to do it, we need to listen to it. We need to watch it. We need to have you grow with it.
Fair enough. I appreciate you asking. So as I mentioned, I go to Barry University of Law. I'm a second year, and I recently joined, the beginning of this year, I joined the Child and Family Law Journal. And one of my assignments was to write a blog post about any topic that's going on in Florida. So I picked this one. I thought it was very important to know that Florida is working with autism families and groups that support autism families and trying to make laws that would help their lives out, whether it be for school choice or a specialized Amber Alert for autism children who wander from their families.
Well, autism lasts a lifetime. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those diagnoses that will significantly impair someone's ability unless they receive assistance.
Exactly.
And families alone just should not have to bear the whole burden of it. That's why, again, our healthcare system should and could be better at addressing it. But here's another thing, too, you mentioned. You mentioned that, again, you're a second-year law student.
I am.
Not only do you deal with family law issues in your blog, but you're also, I know this because Little Bird told me, that you are in a guardianship class, an elder law class.
How'd
guardianship.
You know?
I think it's because you sit right over there in my class. And one of the things that, again, is very important, and one of the things we talk about is guardianship for these folks that do not necessarily have the ability to make decisions on their own, but they need assistance, they need help. But they need to meet that critical criteria under Chapter 393 that they have to be, again, if they are diagnosed with autism, an autism diagnosis, boom, it qualifies them for guardianship advocacy, which means they don't get found to be incapacitated, but just basically someone is appointed to assist them with their daily chores.
Yes.
So tell me, this is tailored to the reality of family experiences, that bill, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. So research shows that children with autism are more likely to wander and less likely to respond to their names or understand danger. So if a spectrum alert comes in, and this system is designed to mobilize law enforcement and spread information across agencies and the public.
Well, here's something I want to toss out at you.
Of course.
And it comes from some of the earlier episodes, and it deals with scent kits. The Senior Resource Alliance provides free scent kits where you will take an individual scent and you preserve it for evidentiary purposes. Not only for evidentiary purposes, but also for bloodhounds that have been donated to law enforcement to find the scent and go ahead and recover the individual. It has been found that there is a critical 24 hours between the time that the individual elopes or leaves and the individual is found. That critical 24 hours is especially important to find the person without injury, without succumbing to death, or, even worse, being kidnapped and ransomed. So that's another thing, too, that I'm going to go ahead and hopefully assist you in blogging about, because it's not just the fact that you have the alerts, but that you also have all of the additional components to have a dog, like my Tiger Lily, for example.
Like your Tiger Lily.
Who basically sniffs everything. And again, if I had known how alert she was to scent, I would have probably trained her better at a younger age. But she's 8 now. She's a good girl. But the thing about it is that those scent kits are terrific. I'll make sure to share one with you after
100%.
the episode.
No.
And you know what? We're going to do another episode, folks, that deals much more in detail than episode 1, where we talked about first the scent kits. What else is going on that makes the system work?
So the Florida Department of Law Enforcement coordinates the alert. Coordinates with Department of Transportation, which helps broadcast it on the highway message boards.
I see. You're driving by and you can't escape it.
Exactly. Those message boards we love seeing while we drive.
Spectrum Alert.
Exactly.
And they don't mean the company that basically is the wireless company.
No.
No Wi-Fi.
Not that Spectrum. No. But local law enforcement as well and emergency responders receive training on how to respond appropriately when a child with autism is missing.
And this system is expected to be operational by when?
July 1st, 2026.
Well, good. That's really quick.
The delayed implementation allows agencies time to build protocols, train officers, ensure the alert system works smoothly.
Oh, I'm sure we're going to train them on the smell retrieval kit.
I hope so. It's a very interesting idea. It's honestly the first time I've ever heard of it because I won't lie to you, I'm a cat dad, so I haven't had a dog in a second, so it's definitely news to me.
I tell you what, Tiger Lily took to you right away today.
Oh, I appreciate that.
And for those of you who can't see Tiger Lily, she is laying down on the floor, letting us know that she's here, sometimes very quietly winding her way into the podcast. There she goes, right on cue.
Right on cue.
But tell me, why? I think correct me if I'm wrong, but from a planning perspective, this reflects the shift toward the preventative policy. We're trying to prevent injury. Why is it so meaningful a change for families?
So instead of reacting after tragedies, Florida is building infrastructure to reduce risk.
Right.
It acknowledges that disability policy, including safety, it includes safety, not just service.
Right.
For families of children with autism, wandering is one of their greatest fears.
Yes.
Time is critical in these situations.
Yes.
And this law gives families peace of mind knowing that if something happens, there's a coordination, there's a statewide response, and it's not just local police officers acting alone. We have a network of state agencies working in conjunction together to help find this child.
Well, let's talk about community advocacy and what family impact community advocacy has. One of the strongest advocates for this legislation has been the Family Initiative, a nonprofit serving families raising children with autism in Southwest Florida. Why has this law resonated so strongly with organizations like that?
So, Family Initiative works directly with parents who live with constant concern about their children's safety. They hear stories of wandering incidents and near misses. Their leadership described the Spectrum Alert as a measure that recognizes what families are already dealing with.
Well, that is also similar with the aging population. On Aging Smarter, we often talk about family caregiving across generations. This law basically have a long-term effect, doesn't it?
It does, yes.
So tell me more about it.
Okay. So, advocacy groups help lawmakers understand that autism policy must address daily risks,
Yep.
not just long term therapy needs. Parents of children with autism often think decades ahead. They ask, "What happens when my child grows up? Who will help them? Who will help them keep them safe?" This law signals that the state is acknowledging those concerns and building systems that don't disappear when a child turns 18.
And that continuity matters. It matters deeply to families because, again, autism is for the long term. Another important law was signed by the governor. That was Senate Bill 112, which expands Florida's health screening and services by providing a grant program. Can you share what this law does?
Of course. So it broadens the use of grant funds to cover autism screenings, diagnostic services, and referrals for treatment. It also increases the availability of 3 developmental screenings as well.
And why do you think early screening is so important? I know that's kind of an obvious question, but tell us about it.
It's a good question nonetheless. Well, I think about it. Early diagnosis allows families to access therapy sooner, which improves communication, learning, and independence later in life. It also helps families plan educationally, financially, and medically.
That's right. I guess the law also touches education. Tell us a little bit more about how it does that.
Okay. So it expands school choice options for students with autism and increases training for teachers and staff so they're better equipped to support students with diverse learning needs.
The better you understand, the better training you have, the more training you have, the better you're able to service the individual with autism and their family. But now, how does this help families in rural or underserved communities? We do have some of those here in Florida.
Oh, 100%. And it's another good thing about this bill is that it also aims to help them as well. So families in rural areas often have limited access to specialists. This law aims to close that gap by making screening and referral services more widely available, so families don't have to travel long distances just to get answers.
Wow, that's phenomenal. So let's talk about planning and the systemic impact. Now that we're looking at these laws together, the Spectrum Alert, the expanded screening, they form a larger picture. They are pieces of that puzzle. They address 3 major pillars: safety, healthcare, and education. Together, they recognize that autism policy must follow families across time, not just address isolated stages of childhood. And this ties directly into what we talk about on Aging Smarter, how public systems affect life planning.
Yeah, so families raising children with autism often plan differently for housing, employment, and caregiving. These policies like these make the planning more stable and less uncertain.
There's also a dignity a component here, dignity being very important.
Oh, definitely, 100%. These laws reflect a shift from viewing disability as a problem to be managed towards seeing it as a lived experience that deserves respect, protection, and support.
Awesome. Awesome that we're looking at it that way. It's just a kinder way and a more, embracing way to someone who may not have the ability to protect themselves. From a legal perspective now, public trust matters. How do these initiatives build trust between families and the state?
So they show responsiveness, which is everything that Floridians want to see. When families see laws shaped by advocacy and real experiences, they're more likely to engage with public systems rather than avoid them. We want the public to be engaged with the discourse, so this bill is a good start for that.
And that engagement is what improves outcomes.
That's right. Families who trust systems are more likely to seek screenings, participate in education programs, and work with schools and agencies instead of feeling isolated.
Well, Kevin, thanks for walking us through these important developments. It's encouraging to see policy designed around the realities of families and what they face every day and in the long term. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
No, thank you. It's honestly an honor to be here. I really enjoyed being a part of this podcast, and it was just amazing to show that these laws show that autism policy is evolving toward long-term support and safety.
Well, and thanks to our listeners for coming and joining us today on Aging Smarter. Today's conversation reminds us that public policy shapes not just systems, but lives. And thoughtful planning can help families thrive across generations. We wish to thank the Senior Resource Alliance, whose website has allowed us to place our broadcast so that you can find it, along with YouTube at Studio 226 Orlando. My thanks and grateful appreciation to our showrunner, Art Miles, without whom this podcast would not be capable of existing. In addition, this wonderful broadcast room or podcast room was constructed and built by him and at his direction. While information is not intended to provide you with legal advice here today, it is provided as education, entertainment, and as a platform for public service. Most everyone, does this podcast pro bono. Thank you very much for watching, listening and watching.